Thank you for joining me here today. I've called this press conference to discuss an issue that I inherited when I came into my role as mayor. I believe in transparency, and so because of that, today I'll be sharing with you the full story of this incident. You may have read on the papers about a plea deal from a former Mills police officer. And so with that, we're going to be discussing more in detail what that means. An individual that has been filming police interactions since late 2018 until as recently as November 2020 has been involved in an incident with a Mills police officer. I want to convey that Mills has always supported this individual's constitutional right to film police traffic stops. This individual came into contact with a Mills police officer on August 13th, 2019 while filming a traffic stop. Over the years, this individual has become increasingly aggressive and hostile while filming traffic stops, to the point that residents were voicing concerns of safety. In one of our traffic stops, he can be heard telling the officer to eat lead like Danny Dundas, among other explicit words. He often shouts directions to the occupants of the vehicles to not comply with the officer's requests. You can see how individuals of routine traffic stops would feel unsafe while this individual is yelling at officers, encouraging the individuals in the vehicle to resist the officer's requests. In the video that we're going to play for you, you will see the full interaction from the individual from multiple camera angles, including that of the individual. You will see the individual resist arrest and the officer use force to detain him. The officer acted outside of Mills protocols when he used unnecessary force. I'm going to hand it over to Officer Accord to read the official police release.
Like Mayor Laura said, I'm Detective Accord, Mills Police Department. On Friday, August 31st, 2019, at approximately 12:30 a.m., a Mills police officer was involved in an incident with a Mills citizen, during which a use of force occurred and was subsequently arrested. After the arrest was completed, a supervisor was notified. The supervisor identified the officer involved as former Mills police officer Arjul Sierra. Sierra came to the Mills Police Department in May of 2018 with several years of law enforcement experience and extensive training. While on duty on August 31st, Sierra was assisting another officer while on a traffic stop when he was notified of an individual filming across the street. Sierra confronted the individual, and after he refused to answer questions, he was arrested. While the arrest was being effected, force was used. The arrested citizen denied medical attention after he was in custody. In accordance with policy regarding some uses of force, former Officer Sierra was immediately placed on administrative leave while the investigation was conducted. Due to the nature of the incident, the Mills Police Department requested the assistance of the Wyoming Division of Criminal Investigation and asked they conduct a comprehensive use of force investigation, during which the Mills Police Department fully cooperated. An internal investigation was also completed, during which it was determined the use of force was not justified. Due to the results of both investigations, the Mills Police Department requested the Wyoming Peace Officer Standards and Training Director, or Post Director, to review former Officer Sierra's Peace Officer certification. A completion of that review resulted in Sierra being decertified as a peace officer. Sierra has not been employed at the Mills Police Department since this incident. We want to reiterate that the Mills Police Department takes all matters of use of force very seriously and is dedicated to serving its citizens with professionalism and the highest quality service. The Mills Police Department holds their officers to the highest standards and assures that officer accountability is paramount when contacting the public and completing calls for service. We will continue to safeguard our community and will work tirelessly to build relationships with our citizens while we strive to accomplish our next mission.
We're going to go ahead and play the video. If you're on live stream, there is explicit language within that video.
See what I see.
don't answer questions.
What are you doing?
I don't answer questions.
Are you part of this arrest?
I don't answer questions. Don't touch me. Don't fucking touch me. Don't fucking touch me.
Okay, get down.
No.
Get down. Turn around.
Don't
Turn around.
fucking touch me. Don't fucking touch me.
Turn around.
Don't fucking touch me. You are fucking on live stream right now. Don't fucking touch me.
Good. That way they see what you're doing.
Good. Don't fucking
Stop.
touch me.
Don't move. Don't move. Don't move. Fuck you. Don't move. Don't fucking touch me. Don't move. I haven't done anything wrong. Don't fucking touch me. I want your supervisor now. Your supervisor now. No. I didn't do nothing wrong. Fuck you. Get your supervisor here now.
Oh, I should just stay there. Sir.
What's that?
I should. Oh, look forward.
Alright. You sit here, brother.
I'm not going anywhere.
Okay.
Local passenger 38066, beyond Beverly, Fort.
Okay, what are you gonna do? Gotcha.
41 and around, left direction. Left direction, travel.
Swallow on Lincoln 12, we have him in custody.
Copy.
I need an ambulance.
You good?
I haven't done nothing wrong. I didn't do nothing wrong.
Yeah, I drove my taser over there somewhere. I'll get you. And my paper. You got it in there? I got it for spray. Alright. I'll grab this stuff there and...
What am I being arrested for? Ow! Can't see! Ow! What am I being arrested for? Why is this happening to me? I haven't done nothing wrong! I didn't even fight you! You fucking put your hands on me! Ow! I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. Get my phone, please.
I'll get it.
What do you want to know? Copy. That's the same. Copy.
So that was the video in full, and I do want to close by saying that I do not condone the use of excessive force, and Officer Sierra was removed from his position with Mills the following day after the incident. Also, I do not condone the opportunists who seek to provoke officers. As a result of this incident, Mills settled outside of court with the individual. Going into this next budget session, it'll be my priority to ensure the department has the resources and funding it needs to train and handle these stressful situations. At this time, we'll go ahead and open for a couple of questions if you have any.
What is the victim's name?
Unfortunately, we can't state that publicly because he is a victim.
Okay. Let's see. Did, in hiring, Officer Sierra, was there, you mentioned that he had some experience, background. What was that? And had he ever been vetted for possible violent behavior before he was hired?
With all officers, they're vetted for that. In this instance, actually, we have trained our officers to deal with this specific individual. This is a specific, unique training to deal with this individual. So answering both of your questions, all officers have to go through the same background checks in order to be vetted.
Mm-hmm. This individual, so I was kind of a tad confused partly in the beginning. So he had a reputation of harassing law enforcement. Do I understand that correctly?
I would agree with your usage of that word, yes.
Okay, so again, like going up to officers in a car and saying she led, okay.
Yeah, he's known to have very explicit language, aggressive and hostile language towards the officers, whether or not he's involved in the traffic stop.
Had he had a criminal record here in Mills or elsewhere?
I'm not aware of.
Okay. Let's see. What street was that on?
It was Badger Lane.
500 block.
And with the traffic stop itself, was he the victim? Was he the one who was in the vehicle, or was he standing?
He was not associated with the traffic stop at all. That traffic stop was a DUI stop, and the individual was filming off on the side, which was pretty normal for that individual.
Why did it take so long for all of this to become public? You said that you inherited it.
Yeah, it was the lawsuit more than anything that's taken the longest. They did settle outside of court. I don't know if the papers have been signed yet, so we can't officially talk any more detail on that, but that's what took the longest. And then the plea deal, I'm not quite sure as to why that strung out as long as it did. But I think for everybody involved, it was much longer than we'd all wanted it to be.
Was there a reason given by Mr. Sierra as to why he went up to a guy filming, even if this victim had been a pain in the neck with other stuff? Why did Officer Sierra, did anyone ever determine why he just went up and asked questions if the guy's just standing there with his iPhone taking pictures? What's the problem?
Specifically to this incident, there's no information provided to me as far as why he did that. But you know, from an outsider perspective, I would, if the officer wasn't aware, and this is just my opinion, if the officer wasn't aware, you would ask the same questions. Were you in the vehicle with these? Are you part of this traffic stop? That would be pretty normal.
You said that officers had been trained on how to handle this particular individual, right? But since the individual didn't offer his name or anything, maybe the officer didn't really know if it was that person. Is that kind of the...
Yeah, and look, in the video, it's very dark, you know, so it could be hard to tell from across the street. You know, I can't say whether or not that was his interpretation of the situation, but you know, it's a training that we now provide all of our officers since that incident.
So the training,
Yeah.
they weren't trained before that incident?
No.
Okay.
So yeah, this is something that we provide for everybody because of this one individual.
I could not tell, again, from video, because it's going quick, what exactly was the victim arrested for? What was the charge?
Interference.
Interference, okay. Let's see. When did Sierra leave the police force?
It was the next day.
Oh, really? That quick? Okay. Was this a resignation or a...
Suspension.
Were any Mills town officials, mayor, council, administration involved in looking at this and the guy realizes he should resign? I mean, was this within the purview of what the city council would have done?
It would have been brought to the city council, yes, but from my stance, we rely on the department heads to do their job completely and fully. And with the chief being still the current chief, he was the one that also, I have the full confidence that he did everything in proper protocol to not only investigate himself, but hand it off to another agency outside of our own to make sure that it was done properly.
Okay. With the Casper Police Department, I mean, when there have been incidences, including using lethal force, usually there's something put out pretty quickly, but to mine, I was working with the station at the time, but I do not recall any statement of any sort that there was this altercation and a resignation and so forth.
Yeah, our hands are pretty tied with the lawsuit, which is why we couldn't talk about it.
Was the lawsuit, how long was the lawsuit? How long did it take from the incident to when the lawsuit was filed?
So actually the lawsuit was it wasn't a lawsuit, but a governmental claim. And that was filed sometime later, but the thing that happened immediately is the Mills Police Department turned this over to the Department of Criminal Investigation and did not want to interfere with the outside agency's investigation of this thing.
But even still with, again, looking at the Casper Police Department, they will say this incident happened. I can think of like a couple of shootings where they'll have this and then they say it's turned over to the DCI and then the DCI is pretty much locked it tight. But I mean, in other words, from August 19th to whenever it was turned over to the DCI and or the lawsuit filed, I presume there was some gap of time.
It was turned over to DCI, I believe, within 24 hours. It was very quick.
So what he's saying is, like, in the case of, like, let's say there was a shooting, I think last year, involving the Casper Police Department. that night or the very next day, they released a statement and they kind of explained what was going on. They said, we will offer more information and possibly body cam footage later. I guess the question is, why didn't that happen in this case?
Well, that's why we're here today talking about is because we're turning over a new leaf as far as transparency goes. And I'm not gonna talk on the last administration or the decisions or lack thereof to talk about it publicly, but I feel that it's in the best interest of the people that we serve to talk about these things, whether they be good or bad in light. So that's why we're here today, is to talk about it. And so there may have been a gap in time, but you know, again, you're dealing with an investigation and you really shouldn't be talking about it publicly when something's being investigated, because you can skew the results.
No, but I mean, again, you understand where we're coming from, the Casper Police Department. And I mean, I know each department does its own thing, but in other words, there could have been something even within 24 hours of being put out. Do you think that was a mistake to not do something?
You know, I don't know if it was or not. It would be different for my administration, but you know, like I said, that's why we're here today, to talk about it, to talk about transparency.
Do you know when this incident was turned over to the Wyoming U.S. Attorney's Office?
I'm not familiar with what the date.
Department of Criminal Investigation turned it over to the U.S. Attorney's Office, so
Do you know when that happened?
I do not know when that happened. I'm sure to be determined, but I don't know.
Okay. If the feds had not done what they did, the first time I heard about this was January the 4th, and I was like, man, that's kind of weird, you know, and then I couldn't find out anything. I listened in on the conversation about setting up what happened yesterday. My point was, was there anything that could have been filed on your behalf, you know, friend of the court thing with, you know, in terms of this case? Because it was next to impossible to find out anything.
I'll let Pat speak on that.
So, in terms of the federal case, the answer is no. That's a federal proceeding, and
With the criminal,
yeah, that's a United States matter, so, no, the municipalities would not be involved. The
Okay.
municipality would not be.
Let's see. The term that was used in the press release was decertified. Is that, what does that mean?
So officers in the state of Wyoming, peace officers in the state of Wyoming are required to maintain a peace officer certification, and that has to be renewed by continuing education hours. When someone is decertified, they're taking their license, so to speak, away. So they're stripping them of their certification within Wyoming, so.
Okay.
Yep.
And as part of a former officer Sierra's plea deal, he's not allowed to certify anywhere else, correct?
That is correct.
So, and again, it's been a long week.
It has, yes. And an even longer Friday.
What?
An even longer Friday.
Yeah, well, it's not quite as long as, I stayed over at the station Tuesday night to Wednesday morning. It was sort of like camping out, but it was pretty weird. So in terms of this transparency thing that you're talking about, what does that mean? How do you put that kind of thing into effect? Obviously, what happened with Mr. Sierra is definitely rare, but on the other hand, sometimes these things happen. So how do you
incarnate transparency.
Yeah, it's this instance where we talk about it publicly. Obviously, we have a little bit of a window where we have to deal with things in-house to make sure they're done properly and within protocol. If there's investigations, we have to be within respect of that, but it's about talking about things publicly versus hoping that the press doesn't find out.
Hopefully what?
Hoping that the press doesn't find out.
Well, that's kind of our job.
Yes,
Try to
it
do
is.
that, okay.
Yes.
So, speaking of, do you have all of our emails and stuff?
I should probably get I have yours now, but I think
Okay.
I have Nick's
Just-
contact information, yes.
And then the general one for us is Casper.news, at townsquaremedia.com.
And then moving forward, we are restructuring our social media, as well as some of the things that we talk about for press statements with all of our departments, not just this one. So those things are being restructured currently, working with Detective Accord and everything to make sure that we have information available for the public.
Okay, all right. And do you have since I always think of the brilliant stuff